This is Brez Scale's $1 million a month personal brand strategy. And what you're about to watch is an advanced breakdown of his branding, top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom funnel content from somebody who's actually scaled a coaching business to $160,000 a month in the exact same space. Let's start at the branding, because Mr. Brez here has had one of the fastest blowups we have ever seen in the entire info space. And the reason why is honestly a perfect storm. So to understand the history of the model that he runs, freelance brand scaling is a break-off unique mechanism of SMMA, which was pioneered by Ty Lopez, but then later adopted and dominated by Iman. And the reason why this is important to understand the lifestyle of kind of who the kings of this space have been over time is because the throne is being passed down. So the same way that Iman was able to take the throne from Ty was because all the people that had been exposed to SMMA from Ty Lopez all had pretty much gotten tired of him. They had seen his ads, they had watched his content, and then when they saw Iman come around, and he was this young kid, and he was transparently showing his life, which at the time was some pretty crazy lifestyle marketing. I know it's not compared to what it is now. And then also showing the results of his agency and what was going on at IAG Media. People flocked to it, and it created the foundation for what actually led to probably the biggest blow up of the entire creator of this whole info space, to be honest. Now, what we're seeing is Brez has kind of adopted the model of SMMA, freelance brand scaling. The only key differences I've found between SMMA and freelance brand scaling here are the fact that, well, freelance brand scaling focuses on targeting the individual rather than drop servicing, which was a huge part of Iman's positioning for SMMA. But then also they just work on a more revenue share basis, where Iman kind of sold the unique mechanism of 10K a month and the 3 forms of freedom on a retainer. So those are the real key differences here. But the reason why Brez was able to take the torch from Iman was because, again, he was the young kid. Iman is, I believe, 26 years old now. And because of that, all of the people that had seen Iman's content and went, all right, this is the SMMA guy, et cetera, as he saturated that market and moved on to new models, such as his shadow operator model, they went, okay, well, like, what about the original agency model? And then comes along a young kid who is sharing his now crazy lifestyle marketing and is also sharing some authentic behavior, just talking about his life and sharing his struggles. They're going to flock to him. And what does that character look like? Well, Brez is a lot younger, and because of that, he can relate to the brain rot culture, which again is not integrated into Iman's branding. So things that Brez does that again make him unique in his positioning are A, his love for cars, which is an entire section of his character that I will talk about at the middle of funnel section. But then we also have things such as his connection to brain rot culture. So he's one of the first influencers to go onto TikTok and make funny TikTok dances and do all of the things that you'd expect a traditional influencer to do, but at the same time, his appearance. So if you were to look at him, his height's not very relevant. However, the way that he dresses, the way that he designs his home, the way that he speaks and has friends that do the exact same thing, it's not what you'd expect. And again, very different to Iman and his wave of kind of pioneering the old money style, which was a derivative of what Tate had been doing, which is like the you gotta get a sports car and be ripped kind of style. So that is the way that these people are creating these unique characters that, again, are going to be centered around the overall business model they have. So again, with Iman, it was the old money and SMMA, and then Brez, it is freelance brand scaling and this kind of Zoomer fashionista, but also mixed with supercar driving and pop culture enjoying 19 to 25-year-old. And that is what makes his character effective, is because there's an entropy when it comes to your personal brand. We've seen Tate's stuff. We've seen Iman's stuff. We understand it. At some point, we might have all bought into it, even at the littlest bit. And now when we see someone new come around, we're inclined to see what their new thing is. And because of that, we flock to it. And then also it pioneers a new market, because before, somebody who was interested in buying supercars, they would maybe watch these videos and in the back of their heads wonder, okay, how is this guy getting to drive all these cars? That would be a dream to me. I love these cars. However, what Brez did is he connected that desire. So with all these supercars, and especially the cars, but also the sections of his lifestyle, the question arises, well, like, where is this money coming from? There's a big question mark here. And what's powerful about this question mark is that majority of car influencers don't actually have money. They are borrowing the cars and they're driving them for a single day. However, because Brez is actually purchasing these cars himself, it adds an allure factor where people are saying, wow, okay, how is he buying this car at such a young age? And then he's also answering that question with the model of freelance brand scaling, which just gets slotted in here. And we're going to just say FBS for the sake of not having to write it out every single time. Now, what actually makes this work is understanding two things. First off is going to be the psychographic of your ideal customer. And then also it is going to be what is called market segmentation. So market, and then we're just going to write an S. So psychographic. This is understanding the interests of your prospects at the deepest level. And I could explain the psychology of this for days and days of understanding what content they go to bed and watch at night, little hints in verbiage. So if you watch Brez's first videos, you'll notice he uses slang that, again, doesn't align with Tate. Or Iman, he will use certain gestures or certain words, or even talk about things like being a tailor that align with, again, the psychographic of what his ideal customer wants to appear as. But in this case, the core takeaway that I think you should have if you're trying to design a brand and focusing on optimizing your psychographic is going after somebody like you, because chances are there are a lot of people like that, and you just haven't been able to identify the elements that you can use market segmentation on. So market segmentation. Everybody, if we compete on the basis of our own personal ability to deliver value and information within a single and singular market, market one here, that is going to be limited. We're going to be competing purely on information, which comes down to perception, which then relies on flexing and who has the biggest authority. Now, I don't think anybody who's a complete number one authority industry leader is watching this video, and you'd have to be like the Michael Jordan of what you're doing, not even a debate, in order to only rely on purely talking about that thing. Where most people garner authority is they combine a second market here, and then what your ideal customer and your psychographic does, and I will just put ICP as ideal customer profile, they are going to look at your authority in section number 1, which will be the core market where your money's coming from, and they will create likability for you based off of market segmentation number 2. And guys like TJR in their brand enter multiple facets here where they're adding fashion, they're adding cars and all these things. And you create these circles where there's, oh, it's supposed to be like this, where there's a crossover where you land in all of these circles in the middle. And therefore your ICP, the more of these boxes they have checked off, the more likability that they actually create for you. So in Brez's case scenario, he looks at guys that want to make money online. That's his ICP, 18 to 22, standard biz op stuff. But he's also combining that with the guys that want cars. So the guys that want to make money online, fit the ICP profile for freelance brand scaling, but also want to buy cars, now have this section here that applies to them. Let's say some of them are interested in fashion. Boom, section number 3 here, check, check, check. Regardless of whether he has the most results in the world, because he agrees on such a psychographic level with what you like and what you agree with, you therefore create a certain level of trust to him that makes you perceive him as the number one authority. Winning in this game and branding space is less about being the Michael Jordan of your space. I can promise you the Michael Jordan of your space is probably retired. What actually ends up happening is the people who dominate are the ones that are able to garner the shared interests of the most people and target a market that would otherwise not be interested in that given thing. In Brez's case scenario, he's done this completely with just the cars alone. If you were to look at his channel, you'd think he's pretty much just a car influencer. However, instead of all the other gurus that might take a few photos in front of a car, maybe drive it around a few times, his entire content is centered around it. And because of that, it creates a new market that wouldn't otherwise be exposed, and he's pulling them into the section number 1 based off of this core desire and question. And while all the other people focus on stuff like his hair, like the Fiji incident, and all of these minor things, they're not extracting the core lesson from this that actually allows him to, no matter what industry you're in, replicate the same processes into your own business. Making sure you understand your market positioning at this level of depth is a non-negotiable before you start posting, or if you're already posting, before you make your next one. And if you're interested in how I might be able to potentially help you do that, you can watch the end of the video and I'll tell you more about my company. With that out of the way, we are on to the top of funnel. And this is honestly the most over-complexified part of his entire ecosystem. To break up the way that he does top of funnel, first and foremost, it is all short form content. Now, that short form content falls into a few buckets here. And the two styles of the buckets that we're going to have is one, stuff that is a manual input. So that requires him to go out and record dedicated short form content pieces. And the second one is going to be leveraged or lev dot. And the ones that are leveraged are first and foremost, we have the clipping operation that he is going ahead and running. And within this manual section here, we have the TikToks that he is going ahead and doing. And then we also have what I will call just the talking head or TH here. So the standard TikTok ones are on his main page. However, you can tell he has someone working on them, editing it. And then the ones here, the talking head, are pretty much just taken from TJR's iconic talking head style. Now, the way each of these styles work. So the TikTok here, this is all centered around motivation. So a lot of it doesn't have any talking. It is just some form of music and text with luxury B-roll from his life or him doing things. It creates very good awareness to the face, which is a large part of what actually makes top of funnel content successful as you're moving into the middle of funnel. Now, the talking head stuff, as I've covered in my TJR business video, is all centered around purely finding one very strong emotion and centering the entire rest of the video on that section. So in some cases, it can be wealth, and it is you talking about, here's how you get rich in your 20s. In some situations, it can be greed. So if you create a video where you say, for example, Sebastian Georgiou's iconic tweet, if you don't have a Lambo and you're a man in your 20s, you're failing. That creates a whole lot of greed or synonym envy that you can use in order to garner a whole bunch of attention through controversy, which some people will take and they'll create awareness around you, which then when they see other elements of your brand will start to round you out. And then finally, we have the clipping. Now, clipping's an interesting one because what actually makes somebody clip for you? Of course, we have the budget factor, so you're giving out lots of money, which his team does a great job of doing, but more importantly, he's already going viral. Clippers don't want to work for people who aren't already going viral. I want you to imagine their entire job as the most shallow perspective ever. They're trying to find people that are already getting lots of attention and just siphon off a little bit of it for themselves. That's their criteria for starting to work. And the equation that they have is money times current attention. And then that's what creates the opportunity that they see in order to actually begin clipping. And that's their whole process. So again, while the clipping army is good, I don't think anything further needs to be built into it other than the fact that they have good templates, they do standard stuff. The core thing here is understanding the initial viral elements, which I already covered partly in his brand positioning. But again, when you are going viral on platforms, you have to understand that it's okay not to be liked at first. When Brez first went viral, a large part of it was a meme involving him being a billionaire's son because he has the same last name as the founder of Fiji. Now, the ordinary person would take that as defamation and my brand's going to get ruined, all this stuff, but he played into it. And what that did is it got him a crap ton of exposure and a lot of people who went, oh, who's this rich kid flexing all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And as time goes on, this is the important thing. It's the factor of time. Once you are the villain, so you're going to start off as the hero, you're going to go into becoming a villain. And then if you stay the villain for long enough and you don't quit, you don't go down and out, you don't stop posting, you're going to then become the hero again. And guys like Elon Musk, Mr. Beast, Donald Trump, any politician or anybody that you constantly see going viral on social media, these guys go through these cycles multiple times a week. Honestly, it's pretty crazy. So what he had here is as he became the villain for this Fiji thing and everyone's like, who's this rich kid flexing on us, all this stuff, he played into it. He made it a joke. It lost its seriousness because people realized, oh, it's not actually true, which they always will. The truth will always come out. So if you find something that gets you a lot of attention, that's not necessarily true, but you're playing into it, i.e. Sebastian Georgiou's Lambo thing, you eventually go, oh, he's not actually like this. And some people will still harbor that hatred for you and probably still know him as just the TikTok rich kid. That's okay. As any kind of marketer, you have to understand the fact that not everybody's going to like you, and that's a good thing. It's a testament to your messaging being strong. All these people went back to saying, oh, he's the hero. He's the creator of Freelance Brand Scaling, and he got rich as a teenager, which I also want to do. And that is the important thing here at his top of funnel section. Now, the middle of funnel is where the money is actually made, because there's people that go viral all the time, yet have no ability to monetize it. And again, you want to define what actually makes something monetize. So in order to monetize, of course, we have the traffic element, which again, constituting the entire top of funnel section, we've got a check mark here. We are good on this front. And then all we are doing is we are adding trust. So traffic plus trust equals the ability to monetize. Now, if it comes to how you actually are going to pull this off, trust and the best platform for doing so is our buddy YouTube. And the reason why is, well, the marker is going to work. The reason why comes down to, again, one thing, which is going to be time. So YouTube has a few things in its favor. First and foremost, compared to short form content where the average piece of media is going to be anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds long, YouTube can be 10x that, it can be 20x that, right? We're going to say anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. And because of that, if we can convince someone to watch one YouTube video, it's the equivalent of them watching dozens, if not hundreds, of short form pieces of content. So if we define trust as the amount of time that somebody spends with us, as we did here, all we have to do is make them watch a short form piece of content in order to persuade them in order to watch a long form piece of content, which we're going to have hosted on YouTube. And the reason why this is important is because we're not trying to make them watch, let's call it 72 short form pieces. We're trying to make them watch like 3 short form pieces, enough to then go, oh, Brez has got a super cool car, man. He did a vlog with the car. He's racing it. Awesome. Let me watch that. And then boom, you are now spending the time with him and you are garnering the trust. So that's the goal here. We're trying to convert with our short form people to watch the long. And the whole reason why this ecosystem is able to exist is because YouTube has a longer half-life of content. So recently a study came out, guy does it every year. I can't credit him, unfortunately, I don't know his name, but pretty much the content of any kind of short form platform will range from 18 to 24 hours. And you can even just do the eye test on this. Majority of short form algorithms are what's called active distribution, meaning that they are going to show the videos that people are seeing on that platform only to people that have actively posted on it. So if you post a TikTok, the time that you post it at matters a lot because it's going to show it to people that are actively swiping. So that's why the half-life is so short on this versus YouTube, which YouTube content honestly has a half-life of anywhere from 6 to 12 months, but that can even continue and go out a lot further. And the reason why is because it has what's called selective distribution. So of course, a TikTok, if it does well, is going to have more people that it's shown to versus one that people don't like watching. But YouTube operates purely on that basis, which means that it will wait and show videos to a certain person. That's why if you haven't watched YouTube in a month, all your favorite creators that you're subscribed to and have been posting, that's going to be what's on your home feed, even if that video was posted 3 months ago, just because YouTube is waiting on the selective distribution of, oh, this person is someone that enjoys these videos. So that is why YouTube is centered around middle of funnel. And if you already agree with me on all this stuff, that's awesome. But now let's cover how this actually works. Because a lot of people, when they approach YouTube, and a lot of the entrepreneurs that I actually work with, have this initial perspective that they want to just go off into the sunset and post their purely business-centric videos. They just want to talk about, and what would be the equivalent of Brez, just saying, here is how you freelance brand scale, tutorial this, how I did this, story that, etc. Now, if you look at Brez's channel, he initially started as a little bit of a hybrid where he's doing vlogs, he's documenting what he's just going on in his life. It's actually from him and his friends in Arizona, and a guy named Fredo who talks about organic dropshipping was kind of the person that pioneered this all for them, just a little bit of lore. Now, if you were to go into the business aspect, he recently started a second channel called ROAS Brez, and on that channel is where he actually covers these topics. But the most important thing to understand is that the main channel is still centered around optimizing for this equation happening frequently. So the way that we actually go ahead and do that is we make all the videos aligned. So if the short form is about cars and motivation and money, of course, we're not going to want to make very short brain rotty style content, but we have to imagine it as a ladder, and we can't have too steep of a drop unless viewers are going to drop off, right? Too big of a drop, too many people are going to fall off this whole bandwagon. What we want to do is we want to have a gradual step down on the ladder. So imagine this first one is short form. Then we step down the ladder to the main channel. Then we step down the ladder to the biz channel. And then we step down the ladder into the funnel. And then we step down the ladder into becoming a customer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if we were to just jump from the short form to the business, there wouldn't be much going on. And that's okay. So really, the strategy I recommend if you are an entrepreneur right now is try to start off with the business channel if you are not actively doing the short form stuff. However, if you are doing the short form stuff, you need to have content that aligns and transfers here, because if not, this whole thing is just wasted and it's a whole bunch of money and time that you didn't need to spend. So from that point forward, he uses the main channel to talk about mainly cars. All his vlogs are pretty much centered around cars. It's the core piece of his channel that all the top videos are built around. And while there are some where he doesn't really talk about it that much, or he's doing a collaboration, the core centerpiece is going to be the cars, and who, more importantly, cares about the cars. So it's the who above the cars that we're actually optimizing for, but cars is the main way of appearing to them because that's what they value. And then from that point on, they might have people that they like TJR, or they might have places that they like Miami. But again, the whole thing is the who and this kind of profile of the 18 to 22-year-old guy who wants to move to Miami, drive a supercar, make a lot of money, get a lot of women, just drive into the sunset. From that point forward, because he does such a great job of actually executing these vlogs, he is able to build a huge amount of trust. So that trust is garnered by the time spent, like we spoke about here. And if you notice, his vlogs are in a pretty raw cut style. There are people that go crazy and do these edits where they're flying and just way too much, to be honest. His vlogs are centered around authenticity. And something I tell everybody I work with is the closer you can get to just a raw recording of you just sitting down and talking as if it were a real life conversation and you were meeting the viewer, the better you are going to be able to garner trust. If your video is highly edited and there is no form of you in the video, people won't really care about you. Just go figure. And the progression is also extremely simple. He started with carrying an Osmo Pocket and doing handheld vlogs. He then moved to using videographers and having handheld simple vlogs. The only time there's an edit is if there's a car montage, or on the intros, he will provide usually another car montage of just what is going on, or any of these relevant demographic agreeables / likables under the core who, otherwise known as the ICP. When it comes to other things like his posting frequency, he's not extremely regimented. However, I'd throw out the range of anywhere from 3 videos on the low end all the way up to probably around 6 or so videos on the high end per month that he's maintained consistently. And the core thing here is, again, not the amount of content he's posting or not the style of the content he's posting, but the alignment from the short form content and his ability to leverage brand IP from these cars and all the other authority signals to his ICP rather than worrying about fancy editing. And with that, ladies, if there are any in this 99% male audience, and gentlemen, we have got the bottom of the funnel. So from that point forward, we enter the bottom funnel, which I hinted at earlier, but is ROAS Brez, otherwise known as his business channel. Now, he does have a different channel called Brez POV, which is centered around him doing POV drives and talking. It has not been active enough for me to consider it a real part of his ecosystem. It probably hasn't contributed much. However, ROAS Brez definitely has. And there's something almost comical about this channel that when it started, he went full blown relation to the ICP. And if you watch the first ever video, the music is the biggest telltale sign. So we were talking about the who of his ICP and what they care about. The music is a massive one. Brez uses music from artists like Ken Carson, Playboi Carti, or just anything new generation. And sorry for my older folks in the audience here, but in his first ever video on the channel, he uses an instrumental from the artist Lil Tecca, and it's pretty loud and interrupts the flow of the actual information, but nobody seems to care. And the reason why is because his who loves that song. I personally, I'm a young guy. I liked the song that he played in it. I thought it was cool and almost funny just how targeted the marketing was towards a younger person. Now, that dramatization of the kind of principles I had covered earlier out of the way, we can now move on to what the goal of this channel actually is. So, to cover the psychology of somebody at this point, we have taken them from a general desire slash pain in their life, which I would say you want to get rich, you want to get women, you want to get in shape, you want to do all these things, right? And Brez has also added a fitness journey to his content, which is just another one of those hemispheres that we can actually talk about. So this is the core first section that leads someone to buy. So he addresses that with the highly targeted, crazy emotion level short form content, and then moves into the problem aware section. So in his vlogs, as he's driving around and doing all this stuff, he states the problem. Bro, you have no way to make money online. You gotta get ripped, you gotta do all these things. That's now highlighting and making the problem more painful. And then we go solution aware. And presenting the solution is where our friend Roas Brez enters the picture, because this channel is entirely designed to solve the problem that he poses in the vlogs, which are, yeah, you can watch these videos of me, but if you actually want to live this lifestyle, the business model that I personally use in order to do this is freelance brand scaling, which this entire channel is meant to break down. Now, when we're talking about business YouTube, that has been something that I've tried almost everything under the sun when it comes to trying to nail it, both for myself and clients. Now, the solution to actually making the business channel stuff work is not the uniqueness of his ideas. It is not the pure ability to execute a high level video. I would bet that standalone without his brands, somebody recreating these videos would get a tenth of his views. And you can look at other people who talk about freelance brand scaling and you'll see exactly this. Iman did the exact same thing with SMMA. They can get away with very simple how-to videos. Another little bit of info lore, but Eddie Cumberbatch pretty much dominated the info space for a solid 3 or 4 months, talking about his model of being a growth operator, which has still maintained around to this day and become a pretty popular model just through making simple how-to content, because the unique mechanism was dialed the fuck in. So this unique mechanism here is something, a business model that nobody else is talking about. Nobody is posing as a solution to the problem above it. And when you enter the unique mechanism and you're the person who created the desire pain through the short form, accentuated the problem through the main channel, the solution is something they're going to automatically assume you have. So when Brez makes a simple how-to video, it's not about the thumbnails, it's not about the editing, it's not about the set design. It is about purely framing that this is the solution. And this is how Iman got people to watch his flywheel VSL that accumulated 10 million views. And it's also what Brez does, because again, I can say that while the thumbnails and the editing are very solid on this, and it's clearly business-centric content, it is not out of this world. And without all the other factors that I defined here, like I said, would get a tenth of the views. So the how-to content, though, the ideas are still very curated, because when it comes to creating a solution, you have to answer questions. And you can see these questions as sales objections that a prospect would give on a sales call. So questions like, how do I start, right? And there's sub questions of these like, do I need money to start? Okay, how long does it take, right? So that's a good one. We have time. We have, what are my ways of getting money? Do I know how to get paid? Do I have contracts? And the great thing about this model for him is that he doesn't have to guess what these are. Guys like Iman have already laid out, because the business models are so similar when it comes to the just pure of what they're actually doing, that he already knows the ideas that he has to talk about and have already been created in other niches. So what he's doing is he's pulling from SMMA, from dropshipping, and from any other kind of just biz op guys who have walked the path before him to create the unique mechanism. He is just recreating those videos, and then as a result, absolutely jamming because his unique mechanism is good, and he's talking to somebody who before has not been blasted with all these other business models, and even if they have been, has still walked down the chain all the way from the top of the short form and awareness section, which then makes his stuff work. And then from that point on, it's very simple. All he says is, hey, if you'd like my help, you can go ahead and you can opt in on the description below. Gets a call from a standard setter And from that point forward, they go forward into a book call and they close them on a group mentorship that also has a course. And I can't speak to the back end, but just from my perspective, it seems to be on the better end of the info space. And I'm never going to hate at education. Courses are how I learned all this stuff that I'm sharing you in these videos. So that's pretty standard, solid stuff. CTA, again, is going to go to a landing page. They've run an opt-in. They've also run live events, which I believe they're actually doing another right now at this time of recording. And these live events, their first one, I believe, was actually pretty good. I know they considered it a little bit iffy, but given a first launch was super solid, and I saw they hit $1 million a month. So congrats to them if anyone on the team is watching this. And from that point forward, I think, honestly, this is pretty standard. It's not anything amazing on the funnel end. I want to give a shout out though to the speed of execution that they had in doing all of this. Because a lot of people, this ecosystem takes them years and years to build. And we all watched this kind of actively form within the span of a few months. The setter team had to expand in order to handle the crazy amount of leads that I bet were coming in on that landing page. The clipping operation had to scale up in order to keep compounding on the attention. The business channel videos had to keep going up. And really, it's a masterclass on taking highly effective brand positioning and then again, executing the rest of the funnel, the things that need to be in place at a 70% efficiency, but a 200% run at the wall speed. I bet these guys have been absolutely cracked out to do this. And I give credit to Brez, Pierre, and anybody else on the team for really pulling this off because it's been a pleasure to watch. And yeah, their strategy has been awesome. Now, that being said, a little Alex note for this breakdown. I tried to go a lot more high level and talk about the psychology and the elements rather than merely just the tactical of like, hey, he's got this haircut and he drives this car. I didn't even mention the 911 or the Lambo. Let me know if you like this. Let me know if you find it more valuable. And if anybody watches these videos, comment down below what other creators you'd like to see next, because I'm thinking about expanding and starting to talk about more people in the info space, because at the end of the day, that's where I'm from. And with all that being said, drumroll please, if you would like my content agency to come into your business for all my ad runners and completely manage your YouTube channel. That's what I dedicate my life to. It's what I spend 12 hours a day doing. And if I provided you value and think I can help, you can go to the top link in the description, schedule a call with me personally, and we can chat about your brand, see if I can help. But beyond that, I hope that the time you spent on this video is worth the value you got in return, and I'll see you in the next one.